Barry Robison, production designer for One Night in Miami. This is Regina King's directorial debut. So how did you guys get connected on this?
Well, I got a call from my agents, and they said, "Are you interested? This is a small little film. Regina will be directing it." And I said, "Great." I read the script, loved it, just loved it, and took a Skype meeting, and got the job, and got on a plane and went to New Orleans.
What was it like working with an actor who's a first-time feature film director?
Well, Regina's had a lot of experience doing television, episodic, so it wasn't like starting from scratch. But her bailiwick is definitely in performance. So she allowed Tammy Riker and I sort of, full reign over the visuals of the film. Tammy is the DP. I was the production designer. So actually, it was a really lovely working relationship. She's very bright, just incredible, and very passionate about everything. And so it was fun. It was a really good time.
Were you familiar with the play before you signed on?
I wasn't at all. I did know just a little kernel. I remember seeing a lot of the images, from that group of men that came together at the Hampton House. And little did I know, once I started doing my research, just how incredibly documented that night was. It's amazing. Once I started doing the deep dive into the research, it was like, wow, it's all here. And so it actually made my job really super, super easy, because I really felt that it needed to feel real. It didn't want to feel like just a filmed version of the play. And Regina was quite adamant about that. She opened it up, and there's just so much in that motel room, so much dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the Hampton House is like the fifth star of the movie. But I like how you added depth to that room, because there's like a little hallway where the bathroom is, and then the kitchenette area in the back. So what was your approach to opening up the space, and how accurate is it to like the actual hotel rooms back then there?
Well, that's a really good question. I had sent a couple of my art department staff down to the actual Hampton House in Miami. It still exists today. It's now a community center. But it was renovated a number of years ago. However, because of the historical quality, some of the rooms are still in existence, like the diner, lobby, and a couple of the motel rooms. But motel rooms are normally small and uninteresting for the most part. So the challenge was how to not have it be uninteresting. So my art department was in an old abandoned grocery store in Laplace, Louisiana, and it allowed us to sort of mark out on the floor in the art department the scale of the room. And then, because I knew that Regina was going to be horrified when she saw the actual size. So we started with the real size at the Hampton House, 14 by 16. And I knew that wasn't going to fly. So I've done a lot of movies where I've talked the director into allowing me to increase the size by 20%. It's kind of an incremental increase in size without the camera eye picking it up and it going over scale. Well, that still wasn't large enough for Regina. So we had she and Tammy and I must say we had a really wonderful partnership. I mean, we found this together. I convinced Regina um, that because it was Malcolm's room, he was a sort of a celebrity. That they had given him a motel room that had an adjoining room attached to it, and so thereby allowing us to create the bigger room. And also, it allowed for Tammy to get backlight that was sorely needed, because normally a motel room is three-sided walls and a curtain wall of window. So that's how we got the room to open up and be a little bit bigger. We did a number of other tricks in that set. I had it's mid-century modern, and so I found a wonderful mid-century modern screen, and it allowed to be a room divider, and it was on a track so that Tammy and Regina can move it over back and forth incrementally, just to get proper framing, so they weren't always just stuck in that room with no way to move around. And
I did notice the screens because they're elsewhere too, and there's a lot of shots that are like framed through like a screen or like a doorway or a window or something, and it makes it feel like you're looking into something. So it's sort of like bigger than it is. Yeah.
Yeah, some of my research, I went back to Kurosawa, and talked to Regina and Tammy about using framing devices, and then camera positions, whether it high or drop it down low, and get into the psychology of framing, and then framing devices. A couple of other things in that set. My early career, early in my career, I was a designer on soaps in New York, soap operas in New York. And with the cameras, they were big lumbering things. And the directors always wanted to get into the set with the camera, but then it wouldn't allow for actor movement. So I remember some of the tricks we used, which were camera ports. And camera ports are basically holes cut behind or cut into the walls, and then sort of hidden behind a framed picture that is hinged or a mirror or whatever. So we had a number of camera ports in the set. I worked with Tammy for placement of those and made sure that they didn't disrupt the overall design of the set. And then, of course, we had flyaway walls, and ceilings and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Well, visually, the color scheme is also interesting in the room because it's like green, and then there's nice wooden panels, and then there's patterns on the curtains and the sheets. So, how did you guys land on those?
Well, that's a great question. Regina didn't want, and neither did I. I didn't want to do, sort of that old time degraded color palette, blah blah blah. I said, no, let's keep this thing, cool and crisp. But Regina, her overriding dictate to me was that she wanted her men to look really good in that set. And so working with Regina, you've got a number of shades of skin tone going into that set, and she wanted them all to look good. So we settled on, the green palette, just because of this, again, the psychology behind the color was important. Green is a soothing but energizing color, whereas blue is lazy and whatnot. So we landed on the green, and then because we were mid-century modern, I knew that we could go into using wallpapers, but I didn't want a patterned wallpaper. I just wanted a texture wallpaper so that it was never calling attention to itself and receding. And that's how we came up with the grass cloth. And then the wood tone was very interesting, working with Regina on that. It took us a lot. We did a lot of sampling, a lot of camera testing to finally get the tone of the wood to be right. And The one other thing about this set is we're in Miami, and Miami is a tropical, environment for the most part. You'll notice that on the floor there are no rugs; it's all linoleum, um, which is kind of a holdover from the research that I did at the Hampton House. All those rooms are linoleum due to, the humidity and all of that. So that's how we got to our Hampton House interior.
I mean, it really worked because it gives a very warm and inviting feel, and Hampton House was like a refuge for Black people then. So
It was, yeah, very good, very good. It was, in all the research, because it was a place of refuge during Jim Crow, and it was for sort of middle class Black families for the most part. And, Martin Luther King would go, Malcolm X would be there, So, I mean, it was important for Regina not to make any part of it feel grimy or grim. I remember that she felt that my scenic artist had gone too heavy in aging the bathroom, so we dialed that back. But there was a challenge, certainly for me, in the fact that most sets you can give a lot of character to, because it defines who is in that room, whether it be their house or their office, but in a motel room is it's a generic space.
yeah.
And so trying to give warmth and texture was really challenging. And I used a number of Afro-American mid-century painters as the basis, and some of their work is on the walls. And my decorator found some wonderful period fabrics, and then they became the bedding and the window coverings.
Nice. It was gorgeous.
Thanks.
Barry, it was great speaking with you. Thank you so much.